In the central panel of the Voynich map, the Rosette Folio as it's called, we have a depiction of a group of 6 mountain peaks. They are presented as 6 spires, like church spires, with onion-shaped bulbs and a crucifix on top. I take them as representing 6 mountain peaks. 2 of them are obscured by rain clouds. These towers, or spires, immediately remind us of typical church architecture in northern Italy, in the southern Tyrol, as it's called, the eastern Italian Alps. And when we look closer, we find that other panels or rondels in the Voynich map, 2 of them, have these onion spires in the centre. And in these cases, I take them to represent mountain peaks as well. I take it that in this cartography, in the pictorial language of the map, these church spires represent mountain peaks, and we misunderstand the map if we take them literally. Here I want to explain how it is they represent mountains. The relevant symbolism is this: mountain peaks are lit by the rising sun, or the setting sun, and light up like candles. It's a distinct phenomenon in the South Tyrol region, where it's called alpenglow. There are some mountains seen from some places which, in the right conditions, light up conspicuously and are typically compared to candle flames. The phenomenon's not uncommon. There are notable cases of it across the world. In some cases the effect is spectacular, and the mountain peak seems indeed like a burning flame, making the comparison with a lit candle very obvious. This is the idea behind onion-shaped spires on churches. A spire, simply put, represents a mountain, but when it's onion-shaped or bulbous, it represents a mountain with the top lit up like a candle flame. If you ask people of the Eastern Orthodox faith why their churches typically have bulbous spires, they will tell you invariably that it's because of the central importance of the candle in Orthodox liturgy. The candle is a symbol of orthodoxy, and so the bulbous spires are candles, candle flames, emblematic of that distinctive aspect of the liturgy. This is correct as far as it goes, but we need to add that the spires are in themselves symbolic of mountains. So in the bulbous spire, the 2 ideas come together, candle and mountain. In modern times, the mountain symbolism has been overlooked, but the Orthodox still understand it as a candle flame. And yes, it's a candle flame, but on top of a mountain. In the Voynich map, bulbous spires are used to represent mountain peaks. It may be a general symbol, or they may represent specific mountain peaks, known for their alpenglow. In the case of the 6 spires in the central panel of the map, they appear cloud-covered, or rather rain-covered, which I take to be a sign of high altitude. These are likely to represent a group of very tall peaks, all of which are known for catching the light of the rising or setting sun. Of course, they're presented as spires, towers, not mountains, and so it's not wrong to see this as a city. But elsewhere in the map, it's clear that the onion spires are used to mean mountain peaks. As a city, it alludes to Jerusalem, surely. The Mappa Mundi seems to be the basis of the design. This flame symbolism has its origins in Jerusalem, at the Holy Sepulchre. The very first candle is lit in Jerusalem. But in the context of a map of South Tyrol, even granted it's a highly symbolic map, it means 6 mountain peaks, not 6 churches. 6 candles, 6 spires. There's also the symbolism of the cross on top. This is Christ as light of the world. It's the symbolism of Orthodox liturgy, Catholic too, but given emphasis in Orthodoxy. Christ brings light to the world, symbolised by the lighting of a candle, and by the rising sun lighting the candle of the mountain peaks in the same way. That is, it's not mere sunlight that ignites the mountain peaks, it's the light of Christ illuminating the world. The Voynich manuscript is not an ecclesiastical work, but it is still Christian, Catholic, but not Eastern Orthodoxy. And the light of Christ is still the relevant symbolism. The light that illuminates the peak might have other significances in other spiritual environments, but in a Christian context, it is the light of Christ. And it serves as the model for Christians, and it's reflected in church architecture. Very often the onion bulbs on spires will be made of brass or copper or plated gold in order to catch the sun and light up very deliberately like a candle, as a mountain peak does. In this way too, certain mountains are marked out as sacred, and so too certain vantage points, because often this effect, the candle-lit mountain peak, can only be viewed from a certain spot at a certain time, at a certain angle, and that makes that place special. It's a way of encoding light onto a sacred landscape. It's not unusual, it's common in mountainous lands. It's a common, very simple, very straightforward religious symbolism, in fact, extracted from a phenomenon in nature. In modern times, people put an actual crucifix on mountain peaks, placing them where they will be illuminated by the rising sun. The same symbolism. In former times, churches, sanctuaries were placed at vantage points. Today, of course, these are largely tourist sites. In any case, this is important to understanding the Voynich map. The spires are not literally churches and not mosques. They signify mountain peaks. Mountain peaks presented as candle flame spires. In the central panel is a citadel of mountain peaks. There are 2 others marked on the map. You have to look closely. So I take it that these mountain peaks, probably taller than others, are ones that attract the effect of, or are touched by, or illuminated by alpenglow. In all cases though, these are highly stylised. It's a highly stylised map, a mountain landscape schematised to 9 circles. But one of its conventions is to present mountain peaks as candle-shaped spires, like church spires. It's a natural association in that environment. There are other explanations for onion-shaped spires in churches, but the relevant symbolism in South Tyrol, Alpine Italy, where our manuscript comes from, has to do with the illumination of mountains and mountain peaks as candle flames. Alpenglow is a conspicuous part of that alpine environment. It's a living symbolism of the mountain cosmology. It's an important symbolism for understanding another part of the manuscript too, beyond the map in the Rosette Folio. The same bulbous forms reappear on the so-called canisters or vessels in the pharmacological pages. I don't think this parallel has often been made, but it's vital for understanding the document as a whole and the methods of the herbalism described in the document. I've argued elsewhere that these canisters are best understood as percolators used for the production of herbal water extracts by a process of filtration, and that in this they imitate mountains, or they symbolise mountains at least. They conform to this same mountain symbolism, mountain as candle flame. This is what that bulbous form indicates. These vessels are based on the symbolism of mountains. That is why they have these bulbous shaped tops or lids, and they look like small versions of the towers in the centre of the map. It's an important parallel. It's enough for now just to make this clarification. These bulbous spires on the Voynich map are not literally churches. They represent mountains in this cartography, and specifically mountain peaks which are illuminated by the sun and light up like candles and are therefore regarded as sacred, enchanted, magical and special. In the pagan mythology of the region, these mountains are compared to a rose garden. From a distance they glow with pinks and reds like a garden of roses, the rose garden of King Lauren, king of the dwarves. That's not the symbolism we find in the Voynich manuscript. Instead, it's a distinctly Christian symbolism of light and candles. It's worth noting here, just as an aside, that in the Roman Catholic rite there are 6 candles on the high altar, so the 6 spires in the central panel of the Voynich map might lend themselves to such a comparison on some level. Otherwise, we need to explain the author's concern with this feature of his landscape. Why are such mountains, the Luminous mountains, central to and a feature in his map? What did they mean to him as landmarks and as symbols? I take it that the map is crucial to the work as a whole, and in the centre of the map are these towers, candles, mountain peaks. The obvious candidate for the central grouping of luminous peaks in the relevant region would be the Catenaccio Massif. This might not be right, but it would be the obvious candidate in the Sud Triol. It is important in the first instance to understand the operative principle, rather than trying to identify actual places. Understand the symbolism first. I think all 9 circles represent mountains. Some of them are marked with luminous peaks in this way, as spires. So I take it that the others don't behave in this way. They are not tall mountain peaks that are illuminated like candles by the rising and setting sun. They are distinguished by other features, other topography. I take it that this, for instance, is a bird's eye view of a flat-topped mountain or hill. It has no onion-shaped spire. It does not have a luminous peak. And this seems to be a hilltop, presented as a 4-fold fountain with irrigation and cultivation. This one is hard to read. It's a mountain peak poking through rain clouds, the same type of rain clouds obscuring the spires in the central panel. But in this case, the mountain is not marked with a candle spire. It's different. This is a useful distinction to apply to the map. It's also a productive and, I would argue, pivotal symbolism to explore as it extends into other parts of the manuscript. To modernise the alpenglow is just a spectacle. We appreciate it only sentimentally. But it doesn't carry the symbolic associations it did in pre-modern cosmologies in the Middle Ages. One of the abiding difficulties with studying the Voynich manuscript is that we do not share the author's worldview, his cosmology. We have trouble understanding the way he thinks. The map, and the book as a whole, is impenetrable if we approach it through modern eyes. When we look at these onion-shaped spires, we don't see the associations the author was seeing.